Welcome to Dysfunctionally Yours, the podcast where we embrace the chaos, laugh through the struggles, and find hope on the other side of trauma. I'm your host, Brittany, and if you've ever felt like your life was a beautifully messy roller coaster of dysfunction, trust me, you're in good company. Here, we'll have real, raw, and sometimes ridiculous conversations about mental health, relationships, and healing, because let's be honest, life isn't always pretty, but that doesn't mean we can't come out of it stronger and maybe even smiling. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of bubbles, and let's navigate this wild journey together, dysfunctionally, but never alone.
Welcome back to Dysfunctionally Yours. This is the third episode. I promise you I'm not going to continue to count these all down. I swear I'm not. But this is still just so surreal to me that I'm still a little shocked. So it'll wear off and we'll just get into a nice groove, but bear with me till that happens. Anyway, last week I talked a lot about relationships / support networks. And then this week, whenever I was talking with the creative director and coming up with some content, I was going to introduce some new characters and how that also impacted my world. And as I was coming up with the content and putting it all together, things shifted a little bit. They took a detour. And that is okay, right? We are going to pivot and we are going to change as we do so. I am going to, talk a little bit about my boys, because they are 100%, why I am who I am today. And that didn't come easy at all, because I became a mom at 17 years old. And that is definitely its own chaos, right? It's its own journey. So with that, I figured I would talk a little bit about how all of that started. So when I was 14 years old, I met the boy's dad. We were in marching band together. Yes, marching band. I was very cool. Don't come at me. But we were at practice one day and we had placements on the field next to each other. And I think at this point in time, he really just thought that I was an annoying freshman, probably a little flighty, probably a little bit airheaded. And so him and his best friend are standing there. And they look over at me and they're like, "Hey, Brittany, what color is an orange?" It's orange. And then they're like, "What color is a peach?" And I pause and they laugh. And I'm like, "It's yellow and orange and reddish." And they are laughing at me. I really said something wrong here. And they're like, "It's peach, Brittany." And I'm like, "But it's not. But it's not peach." They laugh, and that's sort of the end of that. Like I said, I don't think it had any other bearing other than to kind of make fun of me as this, probably semi-annoying freshman that is near them. Anyway, later on into this season, we are on a bus to go to a competition at CU Boulder, and I'm sitting in the seat with my best friend. We have our Walkman. We are crouched low into the seat. Nobody can see us above it, but we're just in the seat. And we have broken the headphones in half, because this is before AirPods and this was before they even had the split wire, right? So we have broken the headphones in half, and we have our mixed tape of all of our most favorite songs. And we're listening to some solid beats right here, right? So Easy-E comes on and we are singing at the top of our lungs. We are singing, "In some pussy is the place to be. Always fucking is the life for me. Spread them legs open far and wide." What? Little freshman in the seat? What did you just say? Anyway, we finish our, great concert performance. And when we look up, the entire bus silent, staring at us. All of the kids, all of the adults, all of the everybody. We are so embarrassed and also having such a great time. So anyway, the boy's dad is sitting in the seat off to the side of us, and he's like, "There is no way that is what the words to that song are." And we're like, "Yes, huh? It really is. Listen." So now we are sharing music. Obviously, we're all besties now because we are sharing the classics of Eazy-E with people. And ultimately, that is where it started. And we start having this relationship. We develop a friendship. He has a lot of friends. He's a really good guy. His friends are all nice. They're all really popular. They play sports. Everybody knows them. But he's kind, and people just kind of genuinely gravitate to him. And he makes people feel comfortable and at ease around him. So everybody wants to be around him. And he's paying attention to me, and I'm so excited about this. Like, this guy, he is so nice, and I am just so obsessed at this point. So we start going out, whatever that means for some teenagers in high school in the mid-90s. And he ends up breaking up with me shortly before prom because he has gotten it in his head, or somebody put it in his head, however, that I, as a freshman, am only going out with him so that I can go to prom. And so he broke up with me. He went to prom with somebody else. And then after prom, he tells me this, and we end up getting back together again. And obviously, my feelings are hurt, but prom's done. It's over with. And I'm just happy to be back together with this guy. So we continue. This goes on for, I don't know, a bunch more months throughout the summer, right? So prom is in May. And then throughout the summer, we're leading into the fall, and everything is great. Everything is great as a high school relationship could possibly be. And my parents really like this guy. I'm not allowed to be in his car, but they do like him. And he's allowed to, come on trips with us, and he's at the house all the time. And, everything is well and good. We go to homecoming together. I was allowed in the car at homecoming. I was allowed in the car then. So my parents liked him. His mother did not love me. And I don't know why. Because how could you not love me? Kidding. Totally kidding. Actually, I'm sure it had something to do with the rattlesnake. She really, really enjoyed letting all of my friends' parents know how terrible I was, that I ran away from home, that I was so disrespectful, that I was so angry, and on and on and on. And so I'm sure some of it came from there. So when the day came in the fall of my sophomore year that I assaulted the rattlesnake, I think that sealed my fate with this woman. Anyways, that night I assaulted the rattlesnake. Afterwards, she grabbed my brother. She was pregnant with Chase still. And she left the house. And I am mortified at this point because while this was a very abusive relationship, we did not assault one another. Like, it was not tit for tat, right? Up until this moment. Up until this moment was the first time that I had retaliated physically. And I was really mortified about what was going to happen, about what had just happened. It's relatively late, too late to be making phone calls, but I call him on the phone. His mom answers and she's like, "No, Brittany, you may not speak to him. It's late." And I was like, "I know, but," and I explain what's going on. I'm hysterical. I'm crying. And she's like, "Okay." And she lets me talk to him. I'm telling him what's going on, and we're talking through things. I have no idea what his response was. If there was even a response, I have no idea how that was going. I'm like hysterical, right? And he stays on the phone with me all the way up until the moment that law enforcement showed up in my house. A very, very tall policeman showed up in my house and in my bedroom. So I get off the phone. I deal with law enforcement. I'm given a ticket. I am in fact in trouble. And, then I got shipped off to go live with my dad who was working out of town. And so the boy's dad and I didn't really talk a lot. And at that time, I attributed it to the fact that we were now in different schools and, different schedules and things like that. And so, yeah, it sucked, but I didn't put a lot of extra thought into it. I wasn't worried. He did show up to my court date. Side note, he showed up to the courthouse and the courtroom with a baseball cap on. And the judge was like, Sir, you may not wear that in my courtroom. And I had all of this secondhand embarrassment for him because why do you have a hat on in the courthouse? Anyway, and after court, not immediately after court, but in those moments, he ended up breaking up with me. And I didn't really know why. I don't know that I was given a ton of context for that, but he did break up with me and I'm devastated. I'm in trouble. I'm in a different school. My boyfriend broke up with me, and there's nothing I can do about any of these things. And it sucked. It sucked bad. And so after a while, my dad was done working out of town. So we moved back home into the house, and I go back to my original school. And regardless of anything I did to try and get this boy's attention, to try and talk to him or make things better, couldn't do it. Like, we were done. And later on that year, he graduated and he left to go to the military. And so I was like, well, I guess that's the end of that story. And it was sad, but we're done here, right? Wrong. I start working at the grocery store, and his best friend starts working there shortly after that. And we hang out a lot. We're, like work buds, and, everything is all well and good. And then one day he comes up to me and he's like, hey, Brittany, can the boy's dad have your address? He wants to send you a letter. And I'm like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he's like, I think it's a good thing. I think you should give him your address. So I send him away with my address, and a short while later, I get a letter. He's up in boot camp, and I get a letter, and he explains that he had to break up with me because of his mom, and he's so sorry, and he misses me, and he wants to talk to me, and now that he's out on his own, it doesn't matter what his mom says, more or less, right? So we end up back together again. Like, so sweet, right? Everything is great. Everything is better, and we're all going to live happily ever after. Like, I was so in love with this boy. Genuinely. Just like, how could you not be? He's a good human. So anyway, sometime into my senior year, I don't recall if it was whenever he was home on like leave, or if it was when we were in California, because I had family out there. Regardless, we have sex just one time. Like, we have sex, and we had not ever done this in all of these years, right? I've known him since I was a freshman. I'm now a senior, and I end up pregnant. Amazing. I am 17 years old. This is the start of my senior year. And now I am pregnant by a boy that lives 2 states away from me. What a freaking disaster. I go to a small town school. Nobody's ever met the boy's dad, right? Because it was a different school. And just what a mess. What a mess. At that time, I took 13 pregnancy tests because I needed one, just one, to come back and say, you are not pregnant. And I would have taken that. Right? I don't care if 12 of them said that I was pregnant and one of them said that I was not pregnant. I would have been like, sweet, I am not pregnant. Woohoo! No, they all said I was pregnant. So that was awesome. I tell their dad and we talk, and ultimately, like, there's no way around this. I spend days trying to figure out, like, is there a way around this? Is there a way around telling our parents? Can I run away? Can I wear baggy clothes? What happens if I just like stop coming home ever? Okay, I don't know. But ultimately, no, there was no way around telling my parents. I still had an entire senior year to go. So one night, I'm left home alone to babysit the boys, and they're out on a date. And then I had put the boys to bed. They were sleeping. And I decide when my parents get home, this is the time that I need to tell them, because there's no little kids running around to get in the way. They're not tired because they just got back from a date. Like, they're in a good mood. They come through the door, and I'm like, I have to talk to you guys. And can you guys sit down? Nobody sits down. Nobody sits down. That does not actually work out like it does in the movies when they're like, you should sit down. No, there was no sitting. So anyways, I'm like, well, I have something to tell you, and I hope that you still love me afterwards, but I'm pregnant. And I just blurted out because, like, let's rip a Band-Aid off, right? And the rattlesnake looks at me and she says, whose? And I tell her whose. And my dad looks at me and he says, did you record the Bronco game like I asked you to? Yes, I did, Dad. Yes, I did. I did something right. He says, okay. The rattlesnake at this point, she looks at me and she's like, we all need to go to bed. We're gonna go to bed, and we will have a day later this week. The three of us will go out to dinner and we will talk about some next steps, some options, and really have a conversation about this. But I think right now we all need to go to bed, which seriously, like gold star for her. That was a solid move right there, because yeah, we probably all do need to sit and take a think on this, just a little think. So that is what happens. He now has to tell his parents, and his mom's response is, she is a liar. It's not yours, and I'll pay for an abortion. Very, very different, right? So anyway, fast forward, we end up getting married. I'm still 17. I'm still on probation from that assault a couple years ago. I'm still in high school and I'm still pregnant. My probation officer at this time, she really has a firm understanding of kind of the dynamics of my household and actually like the relationship that I have with the rattlesnake and how toxic and detrimental it is to my well-being. And so she's like, you know what? We need to get you out of here. Like you need to wrap up school and you need to wrap up probation so that you can leave. And I was supposed to be on probation for like another 3 years, but she's like, I'm going to early terminate this and let you move to California. And so I do. And we get out to California and it's very exciting, right? A whole new world, right? It's very exciting. And I'm thinking, we're going to be able to have a few months before the baby is born to be able to like just live together and get our house set up and pick names and buy the crib and right, just all of the things, right? No, again, wrong. Wrong. Why would this ever be the way that happened? Because Corbin decided to show up 2.5 months early. 2.5 months early at 2.5 pounds and, nearly killing both of us. So that was scary. That was a scary time in my life. We survive, we thrive, and we're doing great, and so we're just carrying on. His dad is deploying a lot and it's just me and him. I'm struggling a little bit because I've left everything behind. I've left my friends behind. I've left my family behind. And even though we've already established that that was for the best, I'm still alone in a state. And I'm in this weird, awkward place, right? Because I'm 17, 18 years old. I have a baby. I have a husband. Where on earth am I going to go meet friends? Like, how do I meet people that there's a common interest, a similarity? Like, how many 17-year-olds out there are married with babies that are just dying to be my friend? Like, tricky time. I am struggling a little bit that this is the only role that I have. And I try to work, but without any education and without any experience, that's very challenging to be able to do that. And, his dad's deployed all the time. So, like, it's just not, there's not any, like, I just can't do it. So anyway, as he's coming back, and we're talking, I'm adamant at this point, like, I don't want any other kids. No more kids. Zero more children ever. Because this was not a part of my life. This was not a part of my story. My dream did not involve getting married and having a family and having kids. Like, I wanted to get out of high school, go to college, become an attorney, become a workaholic, live downtown in a skyrise building with a big warehouse door and like a plant and a dog. So to be this wife and mom, that was not in my story. But the boy's dad did want more kids. Like, he did want a few. And so we have these big, important grown-up conversations. And ultimately we decide, okay, one more. And only within this timeline, because I'm not going to keep raising children by myself while you're deployed. And, I want these boys to be able to have close sibling relationships like my brothers. My brothers were 2.5 years apart. And then my Chase was 2.5 years older than Corbin. So like, I wanted there to be just strong sibling relationships instead of having years and years and years apart. So ask and you shall receive, because I end up pregnant within like 2 months. 2 months of this conversation. I'm pregnant. And, now we have MVP number 2, Caden. So, you know, while these life choices really changed the dynamics of my life, they also really saved it. They gave me something else to focus on. And also, they gave me a way to run away, right? Like, I have been able to run away from my childhood into this light to be a mom, to be a wife, and to live happily ever after somewhere else. But I'm struggling, I'm struggling over here because their dad has friends, he's works, he's in the military, and he had friends in California before I got to California. There wasn't really a place for me, when you have like these like single bachelor friends, insert pregnant wife, just that came out of nowhere. It was a weird, awkward time. So we get orders to go to Italy. And what a dream. What a dream that truly, truly is. And I am ecstatic because now we get to go to a whole new place with whole new people. And we get to show up as a married couple with 2 children. And that's how everybody will know us. And it'll be like starting fresh. So we're going to start anew and everything is going to be great. And we're going to leave all of that behind us as well. And I'm okay with just continuing to start over until I get it right. I am okay with this. So, we are in Italy. And at this point, my whole, like in my brain, my whole purpose, I just want to be a good mom. And I didn't have a great role model. And it's not like anybody taught me well. And my parents had a very high conflict, like violent relationship. So it's not like anybody taught me how to be a wife either. But I am determined to be a better mom than I had. And that's the mission, right? I was determined to make sure that my children felt loved and supported and cared for. I was determined to make sure that my children weren't afraid of me. I was determined to ensure that my children were comfortable coming to me as their safe place. And ultimately, I just wanted to make sure that my children felt safe no matter what. And so I'm like, I got this. I got this. So we are in Italy. I jump into this role and I join, like mommy and me groups, and I become the ombudsman of the command, and things are going swimmingly. Right. And, I am really living on the outside, this like picture perfect, a husband, 2 kids, a dog. This is like white picket fence life. And on the inside, I am really, really, really struggling because people don't know me. They know me as his wife. They know me as the boy's mom. They know me as the command ombudsman, but nobody knew me as Brittany. And so my entire identity as a human being was wrapped up into all of these other people or things that needed me. And that was a very big challenge for me. And I really started to struggle with this. At that time, I also had my friends from high school that were now graduating college. They were going off to have their dream jobs. They were going on trips. They were, just having such a great time. And I'm over here playing Susie Homemaker, becoming more and more and more resentful of it every day, every single day. And at this point, I feel like I've given up on my dreams to be an attorney, because to be an attorney, I needed to be a workaholic. To be a workaholic, I needed to not have children. And so these worlds can't collide the right way. And I'm just over here and I'm feeling very stuck. And I tell one of my friends from high school how I'm feeling. And she points out that, like, sure, you didn't go to school. Like, sure, you're not going into your dream job right now, but you have a husband, you have 2 beautiful children, you get to live overseas. you've already accomplished more than some people ever will. Like, you already have some of the things that people dream of from very young ages, and not everybody even gets that. And so maybe you're just doing it backwards. And so, I'm like, okay, well, she's right. She's right, And I don't mean to sound ungrateful, because I'm so grateful. Like, I had amazing experiences and she was right. But no matter how much I tried to like be okay with this, there just was something that was very unfulfilled within me. And there was something really missing in my life. And so that depression and anger that I had battled in all of my younger years, and mind you, I'm not old at this point either. I'm like, I don't know, 21. So like, while I've, battled some of these in like younger years, that all started to come flooding back in, because you see, you can't just run away from your demons. You can't just like wipe away all of the things that have tormented you for your entire life if you haven't dealt with them at all. And just because you're in a new place and a new experience and maybe all new characters doesn't mean that those demons aren't still in you. They're your demons. They are packed away inside of you. And they definitely came creeping back in ways that really started to impact my marriage and naturally starting to impact my children. And at this point in time, like this current day, I'm really embarrassed to be able to admit how oblivious, how blind I was to how much some of these things would have impacted my children. And to say, like, that wasn't my focus either. Like, my focus was really my marriage, but also how resentful I was of some of the things that were going on in my life and the role that I was currently playing in it. So when Caden turned 2.5 years old, I was like, sweet, only 2.5 more years and Caden will go to kindergarten. And then I was like, fuck, there's still 2.5 more years before anything is going to change. And that right there broke me. That day on the couch with this realization, it just broke me a little bit, because I was not happy with where I was in my life. And I could see a timeline on that. 2.5 years in that moment, while I'm not totally happy, felt like a really, really, really long time. So the fights with the boy's dad intensified. He ended up moving out. My self-injurious behaviors started. My suicidal ideations came back. Those things were terrifying. I was so super depressed that like I couldn't even get out of bed. I woke up every day feeling like there was an elephant paralyzing me, just sitting on my chest all day, every day. And the boys would wake up and they would go down to the kitchen and they would grab the box of cereal, bring it back up and climb in bed with me, watch movies, play video games. And I knew I needed to be better. I knew that I needed to be better and show up for my boys. And I couldn't do it at that time. And that is depression. That sucked so bad. I'm telling my friends about it and I'm telling them how I feel. And later on, they would tell me like, "Oh, I didn't realize how bad it was." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I told you." I told you. But the boy's dad was on base, living it up, doing all of the things that he couldn't do while, he was living in the house, right? He's going out, he's able to drink, because I had like a zero drinking policy in the house, because I really did not believe that you could have a family and drink. Like, you had to choose because of how I grew up, how I was raised. So, he's out there living it up while I'm over here struggling to even breathe every day. And I just don't know what to do. And the thoughts in my head aren't like, how do I fix my mental health? The thoughts in my head are, how do I fix my marriage? How do I get my husband back? And I think that happens a lot to so many people that when we end up in crisis, when we end up having hard times, we struggle to identify what the actual problem is. And I think as human beings, we often attach like our purpose in life and our happiness to another person. And if something is going wrong with that other person, then suddenly we're not happy. Suddenly we don't have a purpose in life. Suddenly we're worthless. And that's tough. Like that's a tough place to be in. And it's a tough place to see that's an inaccurate perception. We also, whenever we're having these hard times, we are reaching out to people and we're like, I need somebody to fix me. Like, fix me. This is my problem. Please solve it. Please fix me. And we don't necessarily realize that that's not what support is. Support is not reaching out to somebody and getting a fix. And so whenever we're going into moments like that and the expectation is that you will fix me and it doesn't happen, then it feels like you don't have anybody supporting you. And that's tough. So in this situation, I'm focusing on the fix my marriage and everything else will be okay. But it's not that easy. I could beg and plead. I could make promises that I'll do better. I'll be better. I won't act like that anymore. And I'm so sorry. And I'm so sorry. But none of that actually addressed what the actual problem was on how we got here in the first place. How unhappy I actually was, not within my marriage, not with my children, not with my life, as a whole, but within myself. I'm having some of my own things going on that are really, really, really taking a toll on my marriage, on my children. And this was the part that was so hard for me to be able to realize. And until I was able to realize that, there was no way that I could start to heal. And, ultimately that, impacted, I'm not married now. So with that, I thought that it was important to make mention of these things because when we're in the thick of it, we don't necessarily know what the other side looks like. We want something. We think we know what we want it to look like, but we have all of these different expectations of how support systems can work and how they can be in there. And we also fail to see how these demons and how these unresolved issues that we run away from impact the relationships that we have, impact our marriages, our friendships, our relationships with our families, our children. We struggle there. And I wanted to be able to say the hard things, to give you that oh, I'm not the only one that feels that way, or I'm not the only one that felt that way. Because let's be honest, it's really hard for a human being, for us as individuals to look at a situation and be like, well, I'm the problem. I'm the reason that there is an issue here. I'm the reason that wasn't handled well. I'm the problem. And as parents as well, we have so much pressure on us. And we have, as moms, and I'm not a dad, right? I'm not a dad. Love dads, just not one. But as a mom, I think we have this pressure that it's like, oh my gosh, I have this baby. I have to know what I'm doing right away. And when we don't, we feel like failures. And I imagine that is the same for fathers as well, right? To sit there and be like, I'm not prioritizing the right way, right? I'm not prioritizing my mental health. I'm not prioritizing my children. I'm over here prioritizing a marriage that how did we even get here? This is a little bit ass backwards. This is a little bit ass backwards, and I can't really build a house starting with the roof if I don't have a foundation, right? So with all of that, I hope that you will like and subscribe to wherever you're listening to this, whatever podcast streaming platform, or if you are on YouTube, hit the like, hit the subscribe. You can watch the video of this on YouTube at Dysfunctionally Yours. And you can go onto the Dysfunctionally Yours podcast Instagram page and engage. I want us to be this community where we can share stories, where we can laugh, where we can come out on the other side together. And I can't do that without you. So let's go. Let's engage. There will be a new episode out next Monday. In the meantime, don't be afraid to be great. Toodles, poodles. Bye.